Hi and welcome to Slick Willy Fly, and what we're going to do today is this jig hook slider. I love this fly. It's a great fly. Super simple tie. What are we going to use? We're going to start with a size 4 Mustad jig hook that's in the vise. I'm going to use a little bit of EP brush, 2 different colors, purple and gold. I have a bunch of Flashabou that's sitting in front of me, which will, I don't want to pick it up right now. Some fin raccoon in black, and I'm going to throw in some silly legs, purple and fluorescent pink. So, and for thread, 140 denier black. So I say we change the camera angle and let's tie a fly. Okay, so we're going to start by putting just a simple bed down, and you can go ahead and take the thread all the way back from the beginning if you want, or you can go ahead and put the dumbbell eyes. I don't even know if I mentioned the dumbbell eyes, but I'm going to be using some lead dumbbell eyes, black, size small, which I have right here, and I like these yellow fluorescent pupils. I just think they look cool. And we're going to put it on the bottom of the hook, leaving myself enough room to make a little head. A couple of wraps in each direction, making sure that I like where it's sitting. You know, people count all this stuff. I don't really count. I just make it to where it feels good. And once I like the way it feels, then I do these little figure 8s over and under the lead eyes over the hook. And that just cinches it all nice and tight. Just like that. They look great. Perfect. And to really make sure that they're not going to go anywhere, just going to give them a tiny touch of super glue. Just like that. We're going to use a little UV resin, so it doesn't really matter. Okay, so in this fly, I use a little bit of fin raccoon, and then I didn't use any flash at all. The only flash is it's in the EP brush, and that's good. That's fine. It's not a bad way to go. But for the one we're about to do, I'm going to use a bunch of flash. So I've got I don't even know how many. I just pulled a bunch out, and I've basically folded them in half, and they're having a little bit of static cling here, so you have to bear with me. But I'm going to go ahead and cut open all these loops just because it'll be easier to work with. Now I'm going to take that clump and I'm actually going to fold it in half again. And you can either cut that open or you can cut it open later. It doesn't really matter, however you decide to do this. But it's not going to be a very long tail, so basically the length is going to be about the length of what is going to be the tail. So I'm just going to give this a couple of loose wraps. I'm going to fold everything over so it's all going to the back, a huge clump of flash that actually looks pretty cool. Making sure that I like where it's sitting, and lock it in nice and hard, just like that. That is perfect. Then, because this is all a little too long, I'm just going to come in here and trim it up, just like that. Perfect. Now I'm going to come back and give it one wrap under, like a post. Can do it a second time, and that really will keep that flash right where I want it. And just to be sure that there isn't anything, I'm going to go ahead and run my scissor through, and there are no loops. Beautiful. Perfect. Alright, so the next material is the fin raccoon. And the way that I like to deal with the fin raccoon is I like to go to the patch on the back, and from the patch I like to grab a clump, and this doesn't need to be super thick. In fact, I prefer it to be a little sparse, as you can see in that fly. Not a lot of material there, but I'm going to make it a little thicker than that one. I'm going to take about that much material right there. Then I bring my scissors to the patch. And I just trim off that material. Now, fin raccoon is not like craft fur or deer hair. I'm not going to go ahead and pull out anything out of this. So what I am going to do is make sure that my length is about the same as the flash that I have. So now I can trim the back end. So now I should be able to just go right to basically where the dumbbell eyes start. So I'm going to give this a couple of loose wraps, like all the materials that I do. And now I want to use my fingers to just spread this around a little, around all that flash. And I'm going to go ahead and check it. That looks pretty good. And now I'm going to, again, a few loose wraps, working my way up towards the dumbbell eyes. I think I might have set this a little too far forward. I'm going to go ahead and trim a little. It's easier to trim when there is a bit of material there. And you notice I don't cut on the same sides as my thread bobbin. Never. But now I can just clean this up. Just like that. Perfect. And now I'm going to crank it hard and make sure that that's locked in really well. Beautiful. That's going to just look awesome. I think that when you have that flash built in like that, it's just going to give it more of a kind of like the reflection of a fish going through the water kind of deal. It feels like there's still a loop in there somewhere. Anyway, I'll find it if there is. Alright, so the next material is my silly legs. So I'm just going to take a couple of silly legs on each side. I could take one on each side, that's plenty. So I'm going to go ahead and put this on my thread about the center point, and I'm going to go ahead and put this on my side of the hook. But remember, this fly is going to swim hook up. So I'm actually not quite on the side. I'm like a little towards what's going to be the top of the fly. Ooh, gotta be careful. I grabbed my thread with the point of the hook there. So now I'm going to get one more silly leg, and this fly is almost completed. It's amazing how easy this fly is. You know, I pride myself on using materials that are a little less expensive and not many materials, and I think that some people will say that that's not the case when you're talking about EP brushes, and I get that. But the thing is that for me, a package of this Sparckle brush that I'm using, I mean, I'll make so many flies with that. It'll last me such a long time that to me that doesn't seem like a bad deal. But I could easily have just used some regular EP and made a dubbing loop and basically dubbed in the exact same thing I'm about to do. So like I said, the brush is the next material. So I'm just going to come in here and tie in a little point. And I don't use a lot of this gold, but I just like the way the gold looks. So I'm going to give it a couple turns of the gold, and then I'm going to finish it off with the purple. And when I do this, I'm definitely not going to use the rotary function because the silly legs are just, they get out of control. So that's a half a turn right there. And I'm just going to keep drawing everything to the back, and that's a full turn. So basically now this has gone 1 1/2 turns, and that's plenty for the gold. I just want to make sure that I pull as many of these fibers to the back as I can. And now I'm going to bring up my thread and capture that EP brush, Sparckle brush. Now, personally, I prefer ringing it. Doesn't always work for me. So I do have my wire cutters handy. But I'm going to give this a quick little, try to helicopter this wire off. And the reason I like to do this is then I don't have that tag. And it's not working. So we come in here and just clip it as close as we can. And of course it's wire, so you need to use wire cutters. Now you gotta push down that tag and make sure you cover it up. So then for the last material, I have the purple. And again, it's a perfect example. I've used both these brushes on a bunch of flies, and they make a bunch of flies. So I'm not a commercial fly tyer. I'm not selling flies. So for me to get a couple of brushes, not a big deal. But very, very easy to just make your own. You don't need to buy these brushes. I just think that they make life so easy. And the truth is that they come in so many really cool colors and sizes, and I just think they look awesome. So now with the purple, I'm basically just gonna bring it up all the way to the back of the dumbbell eyes, and I'm gonna just draw all these fibers back on every single turn as good as I can. And that is probably enough right there. In fact, it's definitely enough. So now I'm going to go ahead and bring my thread back under the eyes and wiggle it through and just capture this brush just like that. I'm not even going to try and ring it off. So now I'm going to make sure that everything is captured, everything is to the back. And now it's just bringing my thread back to the front and a little bit of a whip finish. Then I'm going to get my UV resin out. Before I get my UV resin out, I am going to clean up this fly a little. One whip finish is enough because, like I said, we're going to use a little resin. Yeah, so now I'm going to get some kind of something just to dig out anything that might have gotten trapped. And I often do it in both directions. Oh, I gotta put my thread back on. Forgot my weed guard. We definitely want to use a weed guard because this for me is a saltwater fly and I want a weed guard. So I'm going to put my thread back on, put the weed guard on, then we're going to do a little bit of trimming and then the UV resin and it's done. There's my thread. You know what we could do? We could put another color. That's going to look pretty cool. Let's go ahead and change the color of the thread. Oh, that's going to look really cool. Little red hot spot. Perfect. I just happen to have a thread bobbin with a little bit of red. And that's going to work out just perfect. Alright, so I have a little piece of hard mono. I'm going to take my flat spot and I'm going to make my tool with, this is actually not a cutter, it's just flat. And what I do is I make a flat spot and then I give it a little bend. And what this does is it makes it look just like that. And that makes it super, super easy for me to come in here and capture my weed guard right where I want it. Just like that. Perfect. And I'm going to give it one wrap behind. And now one more whip finish. Perfect. That's going to look really cool. Okay. So we can trim the weed guard. For the length, I'm going to make it just a bit longer than the point of the hook for now, because we can always trim that a little bit more later. I'm going to actually save that because that's enough for another fly. So now I'm going to pop this out of the vise. So we know that we want this fly to swim hook up. So one of the things that I like to do to help this fly swim hook up is I trim some of this material from the same side as the dumbbell eyes. So first I spread it out a little with my fingers so we don't trim too much. And I make sure that all my rubber legs are out of the way. Then I'm going to come in with a decent pair of scissors. And we're just going to give this thing a little trim job. And what that does is, by having less material on this side, it will help this fly swim the way we want it to swim. Now I'm going to trim a little bit more just because I think some of this was a little too long, and I'm starting to get now the kind of look that I want for this fly. I think this fly looks just awesome, and this thing in the water is going to be killer. Alright, so now I'm going to pop it back in the vise for the last step, which is the UV resin. I'm going to make sure that all my legs are on the correct side, that everything is where it's supposed to be. You know, I was thinking about trimming these legs, but I don't think I'm going to trim these legs at all. I think they're fine the way they are. So I'm going to get a little bit of UV resin here. I'm going to put a little touch right between the eyes, down onto the knot. Same on the other side. And now I'm going to go ahead and use the laws of physics and just let this thing be perfect. Oh, that looks sharp. Super simple tie. And now that is bulletproof. That knot's not going anywhere. Oh, I love it. This fly, this color combination, you know, it's not really the purple that people talk about because I threw in that gold, but it's basically a black and purple. This is a shallow water redfish fly. That's what this is for me. I mean, absolutely, throw this at a snook or a tarpon. You know, if you're going to throw this at a tarpon, you have to consider the size of the hook. So you might want to, you know, size up on the hook if you think there's tarpon around. But redfish, I'll throw this at a bonefish. I don't care. I bet you a Florida bonefish will eat this thing. That wouldn't surprise me at all. Alright, so welcome back. So there it is, the slider jig. Still enjoying my cocktail. Let's put this on let's find a better way to show this to you. So I hope you liked the video. Don't forget, Slick Willy is now on Instagram. Look me up on Instagram. And I really think that this fly came out great. So hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. Good luck catching. See you on the next video.